Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. A great premiere. So many awesome things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, picking up after the events of obviously the season 4 finale, but also everything that went down in Crisis, which only truth be told, is Sarah's the only, Ray participated, and so did Rory in certain parts, and other parts were Rory from a different Earth. But regardless, going on a tangent and stuff like that. But obviously, this is dealing with, in many different regards. Like, I love it. Like, basically, we find out the Time Bureau got shut down. The Wave Rider was going to be kind of like taken, but it's like, you have Ava convincing him, like, no. Let me show you how great the Legends are. Let them kind of keep doing what they're doing. And I love that dude in particular. It's like, how do we know that they can be trusted to go time travel? It's like, ooh, yeah, that is a good point. How they're kind of like the saviors of space and time, considering the fact is they bumble so much stuff, but they bumble with style. But regardless, it's like, so Ava sets up the situation for there to be a documentary, and like I love that being the like aesthetic of this episode, and just kind of break it down. Obviously Nate's got a lot of attention because he died and came back to life. I even love him being like, yeah, because of it, people kind of, me being a celebrity, people don't say no to me. He's like, hey, that's a really cool hat. Could I have it? And he just puts the hat on. Obviously, Mona's working with Mick, because obviously handling all the rights to his books and stuff like that, setting up deals and stuff like that. And I love when she kind of kind of snaps when deals don't kind of go her way and kind of turns into Wolfie and everything. I love that. Obviously, the whole thing with Barad, which is weird just because it's so weird. Because obviously we're picking up with that Stinger, season 4, where it's like they don't know about the whole Zari thing because obviously time shifted. So that's so interesting seeing him kind of, and it's so interesting because he's literally the opposite of Zari. Like he's very, like Barad is kind of very chill and laid back. And I even like the fact that he does handle like the totem very differently than Zari did. Well, because I forgot she eventually got the whole around her arm thing, right? I'm already blinking. Regardless, he's very kind of laissez-faire, and I kind of like that. It's just an interesting aspect. Like I said, it's going to take some getting used to because we're so used to seeing, Zari, so it's crazy. And then like Charlie literally just bounced the entire episode. I love that just being a thing. Then there's everything with Gary being a former villain and everything. He talks about Nora, his former fairy godmother. He's like, yeah, everyone kind of, it's like, well, I kind of was treated as a villain, but everyone kind of realized I was just kind of a bumbling idiot that got taken advantage of. Not his words, my words. But the fact of the matter is, he's like, Nora made my final wish come true, and that's for me to be an apprentice to Constantine. So that's interesting to see that all come up. And we also learn from Ray where Nora is right now. Nora is basically at Hayworld playing, a princess role and everything, because I think that whole her being a fairy godmother thing never went away, so it seems like that's still a thing, or either she's still playing into that role. It's kind of really hard to because I can't remember if that ever kind of disappeared. Like, if I remember, she was still the fairy godmother at the very end, wasn't she? Regardless. But I love that the entire team, gets together to kind of celebrate the rest, that being Mick, Sarah, and Ray, who are all dealing with the crossover. And I also love that the fact of the matter is, it's like, Ava's like, don't bring up Oliver. And Mona's like, why? And Ava's looking like, because he died. And then I love Nate being like, see, that's what you get for signing up to the crossovers. I'm like, shut up, I love it. Oh, that's such a douchey thing to say in the context of like actually what happened to Oliver. That's actually super morbid, but at the same time, it's just like, obviously you gotta love Legends with the inside jokes. I didn't even talk about it, but of course Legends is going to be the show that's like starts off the wacky beginning because they have become celebrities and they are famous. Like they're it looked like it was like a Japanese commercial that Nate was in selling a product, and it's like legitimately, like, some of the heroes have become celebrities in their own right. They've never been so commercialized. I mean, to be fair, there's been Green Arrow toys and Flash toys, but like, I don't think any of them have ever been this commercialized, that they've been big time like this, because the Legends have always been the well-kept secret, like, because no one's ever known what they've been up to. But like, obviously season 4, like, what they did was on display. I even love Raven ends up talking about it later on. People kind of give him the weird eye because it's like, oh, because of the whole Neuron situation, people still kind of look at it as like, well, Neuron, the one who kind of opened the portal to hell and everything, so he kind of still has to, deal with the ramifications of that. I even love the situation of even asking at one point, it's like, oh yeah, it was a pretty big, crossover and everything. It's like, yeah, Flat, it's like, oh, because Ray, you helped save the day and everything. He was like, yeah, it was Flash, it was Supergirl, it was Batwoman. And I love Nate being like, it couldn't have been that big of a crossover. Superman went in there. It's like, oh no, he was there. Quite handsome too. Which it makes you wonder which Superman is he referencing, the one that he met, Tyler's Superman, or is he referencing his own Superman? I'm assuming it's more so Tyler's Superman, but you probably almost acknowledge it as like, oh, because obviously he's the only one that actually remembers. Mick does, I think, as well, but the original timeline and everything, but like Ray remembers all of Crisis up to a certain point and everything, but still, I love it. And I love the cameras up and everything. He's trying to like get a catchphrase going on. And everyone's just like, that's not going to work out. But Nate's kind of enjoying it the most and everything. And it's like, oh, and Sarah's kind of stressing out because as a captain, she's always got to reel people. I love that's what her character represents. It's the fact that she tries to reel in like the wildness that is the Legends. But at the same time, she gets caught up in the craziness of it as well. But obviously, this is Sarah literally after dealing with everything because literally her and Barry were there with Oliver when he met his end. So I even love like Mona was suggesting like writing a card because Varad is like, kind of just, tell her, how you're feeling, like let her know how it is. And it's like, oh, write her like, a condolences card. And Ava does. But then later on, Varad is giving her something. And she was like, I hope this isn't a condolences card because that's so awkward. And Ava's in the background. She immediately turns around and walks away. But I love it was that what he drew for her was super adorable. It's like, oh, it's you, Ollie, and Laurel. And I was like, that picture is so adorable. I was like, oh, they're little chibi versions of themselves. I was like, that's so adorable. I was like, that's awesome. And she's like, yeah, this is actually really sweet. I was like, that's pretty nice, dude. But then Ava being like, no, it wouldn't have been awkward. She's like, I'm sorry that you lost the vigilante that you slept with while he was dating your sister. The fact is, they always say that it's better to have loved than lost. I hope you didn't love him at all. I'm like, dude. But I mean, obviously this whole thing is for Ava, it's not something she's 100% used to. Also, I love that when it came to her introduction, it had to add at the end. It's like, oh, clone. It's like, we don't have to keep throwing that in Ava's face about the whole clone thing. I wonder did she bring that up or did just public information bring up the whole clone thing? I doubt that, but regardless. I also love that we got our new name for our new villains because I love that Nate and Ray are sitting there kind of coming up with names for like our new villains, like because obviously Ray came up with Mithras last season and Mona came up with what was it, Encores, which is like I even love later on it's like, oh, we got a kid, she's Encores, and Nate's like, dang, Mona's right, that does sound really good, so it's actually a really catchy name for them. I like that, Encores. I love that we're giving our bad guys like names like that. It's so cool. But circling back, Sarah's not too keen about the whole camera crew situation and stuff like that. I even love like she was drinking a lot at one point in time. It's like, all right, you want my confessional? I hate all of this. And Barad's like, should I come back at a different time? And he's like, should I get my stuff? And she's like, yeah, like let's kind of basically like celebrate and stuff. Like, because basically there was a time quake. And it's like, all right, where did this happen? It was like Russia, it was in 1917, but obviously the film crew ends up getting tagged along, and it's like, Sarah's like, this is, for one, she's literally dealing with everything from Crisis, everything they went through, and now on top of all that, the camera crew dealing with trying to fix time and stuff like that, so... And I love that basically there were three different approaches how to deal with this Rasputin thing, because it turns out he comes back to life even though he was supposed to die. Which also, interesting enough, the actor who plays Rasputin is Michael Eklund, who's popped up in a few things. Obviously, like Jacob / Abraham, most recently in Van Helsing, Bobo in... Winona Earp. So it's just interesting, both shows that are kind of associated with comic books, kind of, in the same thing in this regard too. So that's why I think it's kind of interesting. I feel like there was something besides Van Helsing I've seen him in recently, but it might just be Van Helsing I was thinking of. But regardless of all of that, they're trying to, permanent death him, but like there's three different approaches. Ramona kind of being the, very hopeless romantic that she is, she's trying to get like the Tsarina and, the Tsar's wife and Rasputin together, and it's like, oh, them being together, maybe he'll kind of, they'll just kind of go off into the sunset type of situation and be together type of thing. Nate wants to kind of connect with him because it's like, hey, we're both two people who died and came back to life, and the fact of the matter is I can reach him to kind of step away from all this. And then Ava just wants to straight up kill him, which she gets Mick to back her up. And I love the fact is that Nate has Ray, and Ray's got like a camera on top of his head to kind of give a POV shot to be like, see, so people see that things don't get bloody or whatever. And immediately he says that a dead body drops in front of him. It's like, oh yeah, that's the guy who killed Rasputin, but Rasputin didn't stay dead, ended up killing him. So, but then like, you know, I love that this is all happening. It's like, and I love because the show references the fact is they break time so much, because the fact of the matter is they got the camera crew and everything, but it's like, oh, they're kind of, it's just kind of like, it's Legends, just roll with it. It's fun. It's just great, crazy fun. And, you know, it's like Nate's trying to like, you know, like, oh, you're not big until you're big on camera or whatever. And it was interesting because it turns out like Rasputin was able to see something inside of Nate. He was like, oh, the fact of the matter is you're like me, you came back, but you've got a hole in your heart. There's a lady that you've forgotten. And Nate's like, whoa, you figured that out. And so he's trying to hypnotize her. And Ava was like, don't do it. He's like, I'm sorry, Rasputin. I'm totally down for that. I'm like, okay. But it seems like what he actually did actually worked, because he starts slowly remembering Zari. He remembers like her hair and everything and her eyes, but not everything else. You know, there's even this kind of cute moment later on where he's kind of piecing together all these cutouts from magazines, trying to like remember her, you know. So but obviously Ava's attempt to kill Rasputin didn't work. Rory kind of got distracted because he read the note that Mona was writing. He was like, oh, actually, this is really good. And she's like, yeah, I got, I was inspired by, Rebecca Silver. I learned from, and he was like, yeah, you learn from the best and everything. I'm like, dude, the craziness. It's like, because it turns out like, no one wanted to get Sarah involved because of everything she's been through. And I love that actually being a moment later on where Sarah was like, why did you guys do all that? Side note, I love the fact is they made their grand escape and they left behind the director, Kevin. Poor bastard. But the fact of the matter is I felt so, like it was this heart, like I think it's a beautiful thing about Legends that it can be silly and fun, but it does have heart to it as well. Because for Sarah, it's like, I was hoping that I could actually talk to you guys about everything that went down. Because the fact is, none of you actually asked me if I was okay, but in Ava's mind, it's like, well, asking you about it would be more of an itch. She, because I mean, that's the thing. That's a complicated thing about humans. The fact of the matter is, you never, because I adore Ava's stance, because Ava, it's like, I didn't know what to say, because it's like, I shouldn't say anything unless I can say the perfect thing. And that's the sad thing. When you try to say the perfect thing, sometimes you're always waiting for the perfect words, the perfect moment, and you end up letting time pass and not saying anything at all. So I can totally relate to that. I've literally done that in my own relationships in the past. So like, I really felt that in that moment. But for Sarah, it's like, I lost, it's like, I lost one of my good friends, like her. And once again, like, not even just like what they've had in the past, like what they've always had, like that connection. Like, once again, she talked to Barry about it, like someone who knew her before everything, before the assassin, before being a legend, before all that. Oliver knew her before all the craziness that became their lives, and to have at least someone else out there kind of in that world who knows that about her, because Ava doesn't know Sarah, probably read about her, but doesn't know her before even the whole assassin thing, doesn't even know her before the whole resurrection thing, doesn't even know her before all, so it's that whole situation, and it's like, for her, it's like, I've also been dealing with the craziness of everything that went down. And Nate's like, well, what did go down? It's like, I've literally seen an entire universe get wiped out and then restarted. And even later on, Ava's like, I don't even know what that means. It's like, yeah, it is kind of a crazy concept to kind of be, dealing with that whole thing. But so obviously obviously Sarah trying to deal with this on her own kind of brings Berat along, and they try to stop, Rasputin from his assassination. I love that he had gotten Kevin to kind of record him, and one of the guys was like, yeah, you can't do that laugh. That laugh wasn't, you should probably work on the laugh before the Tsar and his family gets here. And he does another laugh. I'm like, you did a take 2 on that? Dude, this is why Legends is so damn good. But the fact of the matter is, luckily, the team showed up, because it's like, because Ava was like, well, if, Sarah went to deal with that on her own, maybe we shouldn't get involved. But it's like, are we really, Ray was kind of basically, are we really just going to sit by then? And it's like, nah, they get into action. They all join together, end up, kicking some ass. I love the whole situation about like, well, they can't kill Rasputin because every time you try to kill him, he comes back to life because basically the thing that I guess that's there's a connection he has to hell, like whatever that Chet thing is that Constantine kept referencing, meant that he couldn't die, and so with that situation, there was no normal means of killing him. Ray was knocked out, so Sarah throws him in Rasputin's mouth when Rasputin's kind of laughing a lot. As Ray grow big, and he does, and that was gnarly. And that was bloodier than, I think that's the bloodiest thing we've ever seen on this show. I mean, all the shows. That was gnarly, dude. You literally made him explode. I was like, oh, that's pretty brutal for, like I said, for any of this. Like, if this was like, legitimately, that was a Doom Patrol thing right there. I mean, they've literally done that in Doom Patrol. So it's like, that's what that made me think of. That was like a very Doom Patrol thing to see, which, you know, in the grand, oh, dude! I'm getting too damn ecstatic, but it's like, oh, like, Ray's covered in blood and everything, and even Ray's like, yeah, sadly, sometimes you kind of have to, you know, kill people. You're the bad guy in this particular situation. And they ended up having to scoop Rasputin up and ended up putting, and I love Kevin's like, yeah, they had to put different parts of him in other containers, which were previously used to hold condiments and everything like that. I'm like, oh, God. And they're like, oh, Kevin, did you get that? And it's like, yeah, because the camera's covered in blood and everything. I love that Sarah and Ava had their moment because she was like, I don't know what to say. And it's like, Sarah, Ava, and they're both like backing each other up. Even that final dude they took down, Sarah worked her move. She grabs Ava, like swings her around, and she kind of knocks the guy down. And they have their touching moment and everything. And I love Sarah being like, nah, the real way to end this is she grabs and dips Ava, kisses her, swirls her back up, and then Ava's got a smile on her face, and then she passes out. I was like, oh, that's so adorable. And then Sarah does a thumbs up. I'm like, dude, yes. It's like, it's stuff like this is why you're like, you always need Legends of Tomorrow in your life. This show is just too damn good. It's too much fun. Because, I mean, to be fair, like, literally every other show has been dealing with some very serious stuff. That's what kind of sets Legends apart, because it gets to be the one that ends up having the most fun. But like I said, even with all that, it still has a lot of heart to it as well. Because we end up finding out that Gideon's a little messed up because of the whole, like, altering the timeline has affected her because she has memories of the original timeline. So that's kind of jumbling her memories of the current timeline, which once again, and it's what I've talked about in the other shows, we still don't know the full scale and scope of everything that's wrong, different about this. Like, obviously Sarah, Ray, and most likely Mick. I'm assuming they're going to eventually give everyone else the memories of everything that went down, maybe. Well, no, because none of them will ever know. The only people who will ever know is Sarah and Ray. They'll be the only ones that know the full scope of everything. And even Ray won't know everything. Sarah will be the only one on the Legends who knows what went down, what it was like to fully, literally, as she said, go to the beginning of time, the Big Bang and everything. So that's kind of crazy, being the paragon of destiny, which obviously is very befitting and everything. So there's that. John was supposed to be kind of, I love there was one I guess the person who got left behind is the one that went to check on John and Gary, because there was someone that was outside the Wave Rider, and they're like, wait, I'm still out here, don't leave me, and ended up getting left behind when the Wave Rider went time traveling. Like I said, I also love the fact that Charlie literally never came back for the rest of the episode, so that's interesting. But also, like, the camera guy that's following Constantine and Gary, and it's like, oh, like, this woman's son is possessed, and it's like, and I love Constantine being like, it's like, oh, what's wrong with him, you know, besides the pajamas? And he's like, does everyone literally have matching sets? And Gary's like, yes. And so rather than Constantine's about to do his work, and it's like, oh, it's a demon I know. Hey, buddy, hey, glad to see you escaped hell. Glad to see you escaped hell too. It's like, man. He's like, you know what? Well, I could go for a drink. It's like, yeah, me, demon possessing a teenager's body. Let's go get a drink. And I look at Gary and be like, well, what about, you know, Ethan's mom? He's like, you're right, Gary. Let's go out to fire escape. They end up getting thrown out the bar, but it turns out, obviously, what we know as the season finale was that Astra kind of started releasing, like, the evil of the evil people from hell and everything, and obviously that's kind of happening all across time and everything. I guess the thing is they each go back to the time where they died. So in Rasputin's case, 1917, when he actually died, he got resurrected. So what that necessarily means in the grand scheme of things, because I haven't seen the trailer, so I don't know what to really expect. The only thing I picked up was like the little bit I saw like after Crisis, but I tried to like not look at it because I don't want to know too much about the season. But But Constantine is like, oh, he's like, I'm good. I don't have to worry about it too much, the whole Astra thing. Like, she's trying to break the glass ceiling of hell and stuff like that. So for him, it's like, no, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But it's like, he always will, because Astra, he's always going to feel like Astra is his responsibility. He's like, you became the way you did. Like, any evil you do is on me, because I put you in this situation in the first place. You were a little girl who was so innocent, but because of me, you ended up in the situation you did, obviously, you know, in hell. So it's like, anything that Astra does, that's why he takes responsibility, because it's like, I got to be the one to stop it. Hence why he does what he does at any episode, kind of heading off to hell. And I even love, dude, there's so much about this ending. There's just too much to kind of bring up. For one, I love the fact is, it's like, look at like this film, there's a whole audience clapping, like, oh my god, it's so fourth wall breaking, because it's like, you know, the actors have to, you know, like, it'd be like them at like a Comic-Con or something, answering, you know, questions at a panel and stuff, like, we just showed you a trailer for the next scene. Like, it's so referential. I love it. But the fact of the matter is, like, everyone's celebrating him, and Kevin's like, oh guys, get out there, you know, kind of, you know, be larger than yourselves. So Nate was like, not be on ourselves. Like, exactly, you got it, because it's like your heroes and everything. So like I said, it looked like a panel, but then, you know, Sarah be like, oh yeah, thanks, glad you liked our movie and everything, which is like, oh, that's so weird that you're having to say that, our movie. But the fact of the matter is, and then you have Ava start the ball rolling by being like, oh yeah, that was all fake. Literally saying everything that went down in Hayworld in season 4's finale and this has all been fake. It's like, I even love they start kind of breaking it down, because even Vera was like, yeah, if we really went time traveling, any germs we have would kind of cause an issue and stuff like that. I'm like, it's you poking, it's once again, the show doing what it does. It pokes fun at itself, because it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm sure people poke fun at, like, oh, because, like, if you get too nerdy about time travel, it's like every little thing you do, like germs around and stuff like that, like even your germs being from the present being there in the past will cause big issues. I even love Mona being like, the special effects were kind of basically iffy at best. I'm like, you're making fun of yourself too much. Stop it, Legends. And it's just, and then Rory at the end, it's not real. It's a lie. So it's like, oh, thank you for believing our lie. And everyone's kind of booing him and everything, because for them, it's like the celebrity life isn't what's ready for, like, they need to be able to continue to do what they got to do. They're going to, you know, be kind of low grade again and not have like the celebrity that everyone else. I mean, granted, the whole celebrity angle doesn't seem like it gets in the way of everyone else's, but everyone can kind of get around that, not them. But it's like, you know. But it's like, oh, what do we do about the money? It's like, oh, Mick stole a Fabergé egg. And it's like, oh, what's up with this? It's like, oh, how much is it? Oh, 50 mil. So that's interesting. That's going to be able to pay off some debts and stuff like that. So that's interesting. Mick is walking away from the Rebecca Silver books, and he's passing the torch to Mona to kind of, you know, pick up the pseudonym and everything. It's like, oh, and then she's talking about the fact of the matter is she's got to get off the ship, and Mick is like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, like the fact is you being on this ship working hasn't worked, because obviously that last book basically being like, oh, that book was almost basically saying it was terrible, and Mick is like, what? And it's like, because, you know, because that's kind of his buddy and everything. Speaking of buddies, I didn't even talk about it. It's so interesting because now, like, because it's a dynamic I meant to talk about. Because obviously it's always been Ray and Nate. They've been the best of buds. But now it's like Nate, Ray, and Behar kind of represent that, you know, like it's not just a duo anymore. It's a trio. It's like, oh, dude, you knuckleheads. I love it. But I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, oh, I was kind of expecting Mona to... But she's like, no, I got to get off this ship if I really want to focus on the books and everything. She's like, oh, do you proud and everything. I'm like, oh. I mean, I guess every once in a while we'll cut back to Mona. Maybe. I'm curious to see what they end up doing with Mona. Especially if she's going to be staying present day. I even love when they were trying to contact them. Gary's like, oh, is Ava there? Tell her I said, hey. Probably going to see a lot of Gary and Mona interacting, probably, because they're probably going to be the only ones stuck present day. I'm curious to see what that means. Like, I don't know. I doubt, because I was about to say, like, oh, is Mona going to become part of the Legends? Well, I guess, like, because I was about to say, because we got so much, because I guess they didn't want to throw too much, because obviously, like, Mona was there last season, but now it was kind of setting her up to kind of seem like she was more of an official member of the Legends, but now Behar is, but obviously he's just kind of taking Zari's spot, but they don't remember, you know, there's that whole thing. But the fact of the matter is, you know, there were semblances, like remnants of the original timeline in Gideon's memories, and at that moment during Hayworld, Nate sees the shift of like realizing whatever time difference was the difference was Behrad. Like, the fact is that seeing the woman he doesn't know, obviously we know is Zari, but there's also a message from her, and she's like, you won't remember me, but I don't know where I'm going to be, but find me. But there's no way for him to be like, oh, this is, because like if he could show Behrad like a photo of her, he'd be like, whoa, that's my sister. Not unless things are different. That's the question. But you would think that would still be intact. But once again, you got to think about, once again, it's like how much has changed because of crisis. So stuff like that. But I love what was it that Ava said at the end, like when John disappeared and went to hell. It's like she's beside Sarah, and she's like, honestly, all the crazy, it would be hard to keep up. Like, it'd be hard for any audience to keep up with all the crazy stuff that goes down in the show. Oh, this show breaks the fourth wall more so than anyone. They're the ones that always crack the jokes about the crossover. It's like, because like I said, because even with Nate, it said like wasn't invited to the crossover. Even though he was there, him and Ava, but they didn't necessarily participate, but they were there. But regardless, like I said, I'm so excited to have Legends back. I am ready to take this crazy, wild ride of a season. I'm curious what other evil bads from hell are we going to get introduced to. It seems like Constantine's probably going to be off on his own mainly throughout this. Maybe not. It depends on how long his trip to hell lasts, like what that whole Astra situation kind of, ultimately entails. I am very, very interested to see, where this all takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.